The detention of migrants is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
One in which immigrants are traded like products.
They are forced sale to the highest bidder.
Who benefits and who profits? Corrections Corporation of America, or CCA, the GEO Group, and the Management and Training Corporation combined own over 200 facilities in the nation.
With over 150,000 bed spaces for a total profit of close to $5 billion per year.
Private prisons profit like a hotel. The more occupants that go in, the more money comes out.
You just sell it like you're selling cars, or real estate, or hamburgers.
Private prisons rely on anti-immigrant laws that guarantee them access to fresh inmates.
Here's how they do it. The American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC, is an extreme right-wing membership organization comprised of state legislators and powerful multinational corporations, including the Corrections Corporation of America.
ALEC is the most active private prison lobbyist group pushing for anti-immigrant laws like Arizona's SB 1070.
Russell Pierce, like CCA, is an ALEC member, one with obscure ties to national white separatist neo-Nazi groups. During an ALEC meeting, CCA and Pierce crafted a model legislation that became, almost word for word, Arizona's SB 1070.
Whether people are undocumented or not doesn't matter.
As long as they fill the detention facilities for days, months, or even years.
SB 1070 and their copycat laws sprouting up across the country represent the perfect money machine.
Take a picture.
I am. Oh, I love you. The hardest thing for me is just watching Logan go through really hard emotions, get like aggressive behaviors. It's hard to see my husband behind glass, but it's even harder to see the pain that it's causing my son. He was sent an order of deportation to the wrong address. We didn't realize that he had an order of deportation until he was denied a work visa. His mother got called up for her permanent residency interview, so she was denied permanent residency. And what we didn't realize was that when she was denied, his case was under hers since he was 8 years old. I was under the naive assumption that my immigration status would protect him. And we were walking out of the house, and 2 ICE officers came up and handcuffed him in front of me and Logan. Just stunned and scared and worried about Logan seeing that. And I told the ICE officers, I said, my little boy is only 2. He doesn't understand what's going on. Will you please let him say goodbye to his father? We've gone through a lot of holidays in the last 19 months, and there's nothing really that he can give to us. So he made these, a cross with a heart around it, another cross, and this is actually a rosary. You can actually see that he weaved each bead. Right away? Yeah. And who's gonna go? Only us, me and you? Yeah. Nobody else? Even though it's painful for me sometimes and it hurts and I'm tired and I don't want to answer the same question again, I just keep going because even if it's not changed for us, even if it's not changed for us, I don't want other people to have to go through this. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. All I wanted was a family to be reunited, that the politics didn't matter. That they've seen the pain that Logan's felt and that they've seen my pain. And what if one more person thinks about immigration reform that wouldn't normally? You know?
El Refugio offer the families that are visiting a loved one in the detention center a place for free meal, for free overnight housing.
We've got 9 beds plus the couch, and plus we have some air mattresses and so forth, so we can accommodate a good number of people.
CCA has done everything to try and prevent us from creating a place of safety and welcome for the families. If one of our volunteers is seen passing out a simple flyer that states that we want to offer you a place of refuge where you can have a free meal, a free bed, and emotional and spiritual support during this time of crisis, we are immediately escorted off the premises.
In town, there's no hotels or grocery stores or just any services for the families. A mile to the east of us is Stewart Detention Center. It seems like a very intentional strategy to put these detention centers in very remote areas so that it makes it even more difficult for family members to see their loved ones.
Teníamos la dirección de aquí, venimos a pedir posada para esperar en lo que salen mis niños de visitar a su papá. Detuvieron a mi esposo por no tener licencia. Se lo llevaron de un parque donde estaba junto con mis niños. Sí. Yo no tengo papeles tampoco y traje a mis hijos a que vieran a su papá. Él todas las noches me pregunta, mami, ¿cuándo viene mi papá? No, ya no quiero echarle mentiras o no sé qué contestarle.
We also organize group humanitarian visitations where we compiled the allegations of ways in which CCA was not complying with detention standards.
Él es diabético y pues le dan muy poquita comida y pues cosas que está horrible. Toda la comida dice que está muy fea y le tengo que estar depositando dinero. El teléfono, las llamadas me sale bastante caro. Son como $50, $60 por semana para que él se pueda estar comunicando conmigo.
If someone is in a medical crisis in what is the largest immigration detention center in the United States, they could likely be an hour away from the nearest emergency room. And so this is definitely a location that is not suitable to be detaining anyone, much less 2,000 men.
No one told ICE to turn immigrants into commodities for the profit of private corporations. But this is a little death. This is just a little death. And every day in this place, there are other little deaths. Every time there is medical attention that is delayed or denied in this place, there is a little death of the dignity of those who are held here, the 1,750 men that are in there right now.
They had been told at the beginning of the shift that the detainee was having health problems, and my understanding is that he was covered in feces and vomiting, and the other detainees were caring for him because he couldn't get medical attention. They had repeatedly called Public Health Service, which is a government agency that runs health care for the Stewart Detention Centers, and PHS refused. They would call them and tell them to stop calling them, that there was nothing wrong with him. They were aware of his complaints. They finally did take the detainee to the hospital, but by then he had passed away. He was actually dead at the facility.
There have been 2 deaths here at the Stewart Detention Center, and there was a 3rd death at the North Georgia Detention Center, which is also owned and operated by the Stewart Detention Center.
Whether you're for or against immigration reform, there's still rights that need to be met. There's still government requirements. CCA and a lot of the companies have, huge histories of not meeting those requirements.
The very existence of these detention centers are inhumane.
The water would come out and it would be green.
Immoral, unnecessary.
Physical force and chemical agents were used on the detainees.
A relentless pursuit of profit.
Everything was pretty much hushed up.
A lack of cultural competency, a lack of understanding of the different, cultures of the men who were there.
Every time a man has to lose his dignity because there's only one toilet for every 33 detainees, there is a little death that happens to that man.
How does that happen? I mean, if the health department came in a restaurant and tripped over rats, would they make it a practice?
Praise God, praise God.
You know what I'm saying? How does it happen?
SWAT team pulled the kids from their homes at gunpoint while arresting their parents.
Democracy, bought and paid for and corrupted by corporations.
Meet the American Legislative Exchange Council, a corporate-funded right-wing organization in charge of writing custom-made legislation.
In Arizona have implemented controversial laws to target undocumented people living in the United States.
Puede el estado de Arizona hacer su propia ley de inmigración.
It's a big victory for Arizona as we take a significant step towards finally implementing the core of Senate Bill 1070.
In 1973, a group called the American Legislative Council, or ALEC, was created by large corporations for the purpose of writing model legislation that favored their interests.
Lobbying for those strict laws and for more prisons, the private prison industry.
CCA holds the contract to imprison federal detainees in Arizona.
Basically, SB 1070 and the ALEC counterpart, the No More Sanctuary Cities for Illegal Immigrants Act, work to convert every single state, county, municipal law enforcement agent into a border patrol agent.
In Arizona is the case, an example, with SB 1070. They were able to convince the public that Mexican and Central American immigrants created this enormous problem for them. And you had local jokers like Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who pushed this, and they were able to foment this hysteria that allowed them to get this legislation passed, despite the federal obstacles.
Since 1070 was designed to lock up a lot more people in Arizona on federal immigration charges. Cha-ching!
In order for them to maintain their bottom line and to ensure that they do the best they can by their shareholders, they have to work to influence legislation, which is what they do. If you look at their lobby reports, they've all sort of migrated on more intensively to the immigration field for whatever reason.
All these conservative legislators around the country take this legislation home dutifully after they've been wined and dined and pampered and flattered in some five-star hotel somewhere, sand and surf for, skiing in Colorado or whatever. They bring it back to their constituents or their legislatures, and they push bills that have ALEC's name on. Literally, we found ALEC's name on some of these bills.
ALEC has been, I think, a wonderful organization. Not only does it bring like-minded legislators together, but the private sector engagement and partnership in ALEC is really what I think makes it the organization that it is.
You dig a little bit and you see how interrelated the webs of influence truly are. What's happening now with illegal immigration, all you have to do is look 10, 20 years in the past and see the very real effect. I mean, we are now the world's foremost incarcerator. We beat everybody. We've got something like 2.3 million people locked up.
La detención cero no ha ayudado realmente a la ciudad para nada, ni económicamente. ¿En qué iba a ayudar una cárcel? Ayuda a una tienda, un supermercado, pero una cárcel. Aún más, subió una deuda increíble. Sí, una deuda de casi $10 millones. El hospital del pueblo casi se cierra. Fue algo, tuvo que intervenir el City para que no se cerrara. 50% de los trabajadores del hospital renunciaron. Y eso causó una crisis increíble. Negocios se salieron, consumió mucha agua. También subió los impuestos y detuvo el crecimiento de la ciudad y le ha afectado hasta ahora. La ciudad no quería la detention center. Y el Lamb County, el condado, no lo quería. Los líderes decidieron que sí era buena idea. Antes de construirla, yo hablé con el que era ese tiempo el city manager y el alcalde, el mayor, y ellos no querían. Pero todos los políticos, los líderes de la comunidad ganaron.
This area of the country is a low-cost area to do business. I think another thing is, there is an available workforce. It's going to be a beneficial place for anybody to buy a facility like this and be able to make it a profitable facility.
La detention center fue un fracaso, un error grandísimo. Ni Littlefield ni el condado necesitaba cárcel. Fue demasiado lo que invirtió el city en algo que no producía. Ya va a llegar a 3 años que ese lugar está vacío. Todavía el pueblo está preocupado en qué va a pasar con la detention center. O sea, yo he estado de pastor ahí en esa iglesia 28 años, entonces yo conozco bastante bien la comunidad. La gente de Littlefield es buena gente, son gente linda, pero no les ha ido bien con los líderes.
The detention center that I'm going to sell today really is state of the art. It's as good as it can possibly get. You have the people coming into that pipeline, so you have an endless supply of product. No matter what your business is, what you're looking for, we will have a steady supply of people in America to fill this facility. $5 million, you want to bet $5 million, fine. I have $5 million, you want to bet $5 million, fine. $5 million, you want to bet $5 million, fine. Yes, thank you, got $5 million, now give me $5 million, 200.
Cada día amanecer en esas 4 paredes es muy difícil. No quiero firmarla porque tengo un poco de todavía depresión de que estuve en ese lugar. Hay muchas cosas que pasan ahí, tratan a uno mal, le gritan, lo humillan. Vi muchas cosas, trabajaba de 4 de la mañana a 9 de la mañana en la cocina. Pagaban $1 y con eso yo compraba comida porque a veces no comía la comida que daban ahí. Toda la comida que hay allí, pues ahí está embodegada, carne que lo tienen ahí por mucho tiempo. Hay muchas que desmayan, que caen por la comida, eso pasa siempre. Tenía que comprar una tarjeta que cuesta $11, que no dan muchos minutos. Yo no podía decir los números de ID en inglés. Una oficial me pegó en el pecho y me retrocedió para atrás. Tuve 17 meses ahí. Me duele mucho de cómo son injustos, de que lo tienen tanto tiempo a uno. Lamentablemente uno tiene que estar en ese lugar por mucho tiempo. Y para mí es una injusticia de lo que ellos hacen.
Well, the big winner in the crackdown on illegal immigration has been the private prison industry.
Refugio Group announced a rise in its third quarter profits based on strong demand in its markets. Shares of Refugio are up more than 1.6% in afternoon trading.
Corrections Corporation net income risen each of the last 4 years. As for the future, the company forecasts the number of prison inmates will grow by more than 24,000 per year.
Corrections Corp and the Geo Group, these are private prisons. And the bull case is really simple, that they've spent years making money by having states outsource prisoners to them, and the states get a small discount on that, and therefore they've grown rates per day on prisoners. They've seen prison populations go up, and they've expanded the number of beds they have.
Raise your right hand, sir. I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under the penalty of perjury, that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes. Is it fair to say that GEO is heavily invested in providing immigration detention services for the federal government?
Object to formal foundation.
Yes.
Pues mi hijo Guillermo Gómez, él es enfermo. Desde chico se le detectó esa enfermedad. A él le gusta mucho trabajar en lo que le den.
car wash, él trabaja sorteando tomate, no sé por qué migración lo detuvo.
Guillermo entered the immigration system in December of 2005. Private detention facilities make their money for the number of people that are there per night that they stay there, they get paid. So there's no financial incentive for them to identify the mentally ill and bring them to the attention of the authorities to say, hey, we should get this guy out sooner rather than later. You can't go to immigration authorities and say, this is what I hear is happening to my son. They're going to say he's being housed by a private corporation. They're responsible for the day-to-day and need to talk to them. And then getting to them, because it's a big corporation, is a nightmare for people that don't have a law degree or can't throw a law degree around it. And as I said, people in detention don't have the right to an attorney, and many people don't have the attorneys.
A veces llegaba yo a los centros de detención y ya no estaba. A veces ya me lo habían llevado para un lado, ya me lo habían llevado para otro. Y así lo traían para varios lados. A mí nunca me comunicaban para dónde se lo llevaban.
And she would go to whatever immigration official she could find, asking, where's my son, where's my son, where's my son? Pleading. And they didn't have answers for her.
Me dijeron que no, que estaba en el hospital. Le dije, ¿por qué está en el hospital? No, pues no podemos informarle.
Le dije al CEO que me andaba de hacer del uno. Y dijo, no, yo no te voy a llevar. Le dije, pero es que es una emergencia, llévame, porque cerró las dos puertas. Y le dije que quería ir y dijo que no. Entonces me agarró en el pantalón. Vino un oficial y me dijo, ¿qué pasó? Le dije, no, pues el oficial no me dejó entrar al baño. Y de repente me dio una trompada y después me dio otra, después ya vinieron ya más. Me golpearon y después ya no supe nada hasta que estaba en el hospital al siguiente día. Con un ojo, con este ojo así morado y chiquito.
Me sentía muy deprimida porque yo no sabía de él. Y yo sabiendo que él es enfermo y no saber nada de él.
Once he went into ICE custody, he went in front of an immigration judge. Within a month, the immigration judge realized there was issues maybe pertaining to whether Guillermo was even competent to help in his own hearing. And she ordered immigration authorities to have a competency evaluation. Immigration authorities asked for the court to close the proceedings temporarily, meaning there would be no future hearing until the evaluation was completed. And then immigration authorities didn't get the evaluation done. They forgot about him.
Me castigaban seguido. Y fui al hoyo.
Esos años fueron una cosa muy que no tengo palabras con que explicar todo lo que yo pasé.
No, pues ya no volver a entrar, porque es muy difícil salir.
People with mental illnesses get caught up in the immigration system, get detained and potentially lost in the system for years at a time. CCA certainly profited from having Guillermo there.
Inmigración, ¿por qué lo tenía? Esa es la pregunta que todavía no tengo la respuesta.
The number of people held in private federal facilities has increased about 120%. And of course, the more money these corporations make, the more powerful they get. Two of them have spent over $1 million lobbying in Florida alone. Now, guess who has the second biggest private prison population in the country? Florida, coming in right behind Texas with 9,800 inmates.
Is it true that the GEO group contributed about $830,000 to political candidates in Florida in 2010?
Objective form. Foundation.
I'm a certified correctional officer for the state of Florida. I worked for CCA twice. They're looking to do the things the cheapest way they can, but make money. If an inmate was hurt, you almost had to be dying to be able to get to the medical because they didn't believe you. You had to do an act of Congress. We had to call the supervisor, we had to call the on-duty shift supervisor, then we had to okay it through the warden, and then we had to okay it through Tennessee. And this is crazy because that's not what policy states.
The surveillance video from a prison in Idaho shows one inmate attacking another. the beating continuing, even with a break before guards intervene. The Idaho Correctional Center is privately run, operated by Corrections Corporation of America. Lawsuits from inmates say the company pits prisoners against each other, covering up assaults, creating what is dubbed a gladiator school.
I had one inmate that was type 2 diabetic, I believe, so he knew what he needed to eat. His doctor on the outside knew what he needed to eat, but CCA felt that they knew it better, and they would keep giving him something, starches that he couldn't eat. And it was either you eat it or too bad, so sad. So it's either the CCA way or it's no way.
Corrections Corporation of America. The company runs 65 facilities, making it the largest operator of private prisons in the country.
We used to have gas masks for the officers in each housing unit, so if they had to gas one of the units, they took them all out. Again, they're looking to do the things the cheapest way they can, but make money for their higher echelons. If we were overbooked, CCA didn't care. They were looking for the money. The people that were making the profit, the stockbrokers, were making big money to where me as a correctional officer was making $10. We had a situation where one of the unit management team had promised videos because they gave the guys videos if they were good. One of the federal inmates that we had worked with for quite a long time, they wouldn't let him watch the videos, and he got upset and he trashed his pod. And I asked the supervisor to go over with me to another pod because they were ready to do the same thing. We walked in, we were joking around, there were maybe 15 inmates out where you could see them. We talked to the inmates, and I agreed that the inmates were not being treated fairly. 2 weeks later I was terminated. I was told I incited a riot. It wasn't a riot at all. They wanted to let me go. They were building a case against me. All I said was, this inmate is a rec inmate, so he should be eligible to go watch the videos. Now I can't get a job because when they do backgrounds, they go to CCA, they're sure to point out in my file. So I haven't had a job in 2 years. I lost everything. They're making money. That's why they walk into a facility and they build this new area for your ICE inmates or your federal inmates or whoever they're taking. So once you go with CCA, you're almost buried with them because they're going to put you in the hole. But they're not going to give it to their staff or anything else. They're going to give it to their investors.
There's something systemically wrong with this company. It operates in the shadows. Everybody in this country should rise up against this company because they're just going to bully our country and our government into putting more stringent laws on immigration so that they profit.
They're gonna make money out of lives. They're gonna make money out of people. Because how CCA works is that they get money per detainee.
Everybody's making money off these folks who are looking for a better life, whether it's the private prison companies, whether it's an expanded ICE and federal government.
They want to keep them in this prison. That's how they make their money. They need to fill beds.
This is not being driven by good public policy, being driven by the need for profits of a private corporation that makes its money from housing people in detention facilities. They will build it and then they will seek to influence public policy to fill it.
With all the human rights violations that CCA has done, that they should not get one dime of our federal tax dollars.
When ICE and CCA came down here, supposedly to meet with the residents, 98% were against this person. Only one gentleman stood up and said supported, one out of the 200 people.
I began to question our town officials, and I was told that there was a cone of silence in place and that they could not talk about it.
I've called on Debbie Wasserman Schultz's office to put this in the sunshine as well because it's not happening.
We didn't even meet with her because she doesn't even come here to say, okay, let me meet with my constituents, let me meet with my residents to talk about this.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz, along with Senator Bill Nelson, had co-signed a letter of endorsement for this facility. And I find that absolutely inconceivable that both of those individuals would facilitate secure communities by building one of the largest deportation centers in the country in our own backyard only for money.
I mean, it's evident that we're not supporting this person. The politicians that are supporting this, they keep saying and they keep announcing that the residents supporting this. How can They say that if 98% were against it.
Definitely. Definitely.
Nope. Absolutely.
This is absolutely wrong.
All we can do is fight and just keep on pushing ahead, and in any way we can try to block this facility from being built.
Residents of Southwest Ranches are angry and growing increasingly vocal. The reason for their ire are plans to build a huge immigrant detention center close to their homes, schools and businesses.
We have a gift for CCA, and that is a traditional bag of coal, which represents bad behavior. The residents of Southwest Ranches and Pembroke Pines and Weston would like the Congresswoman to change her heart about her support for the prisons.
We'll never see true immigration reform if we just create these facilities to lock people up.
And the whole human element of it is really gone. It's not under discussion at all.
It's just something that people are not understanding and not taking into consideration when they build a facility like this.